How I overcame betrayal, regained my self-esteem, and built an extraordinary life. My name is Angelica, and I can say without fear of being wrong that I've lived 2 lives, before and after my divorce. I was that woman who always believed in happy endings, who imagined growing old with just one person. I was married to Samuel for 10 years. In the beginning, I was happy, or at least I thought I was. I worked at a small company, took care of the house, and lived the routine so many women live, thinking it's enough. There was nothing extraordinary, but I believed everything was fine. Until one day I discovered the hard way that it was all an illusion. The betrayal wasn't just a breach of trust. It was like a piece of me being ripped away. At first, the pain was overwhelming. I felt destroyed, humiliated, empty. I spent days unable to eat properly, sleepless nights turning over every detail of the relationship, trying to understand where I had failed. It was as if my identity had been taken away along with that failed marriage. And the most painful thing was realizing that for years, I had put myself second. I had set aside my dreams, my self-esteem, to sustain a relationship where the other person didn't do the minimum to respect me. There were weeks when the only thing I could do was survive. But amidst all that chaos, a spark began to emerge. And it was that spark that changed everything. That spark was small at first. It was just a little voice telling me I didn't deserve to drag myself down like that. I started with simple things: walking in the park, having coffee alone, listening to music I liked, without caring whether Samuel approved or not. Little by little, I began remembering who I was before I was wiped out in a toxic marriage. I decided to seek professional help, started therapy, and there I realized how much I had lost myself, trying to hold on to something that had long been destroyed. Each session gave me the strength to shift my focus from what I had lost and look at what I still had: my life. Over time, the pain gave way to a feeling I'd forgotten existed: self-confidence. For the first time in years, I made a list of everything I'd always dreamed of doing, but never allowed myself. Simple things, like traveling alone, and more daring ones, like starting my own business. I remember one of my first important decisions was to leave the job where I'd stagnated. I quit without a definitive plan, but with one certainty: I wanted to start over from scratch, but this time living for myself. It was scary, of course, but at the same time, it was liberating. The first door I closed was the one that had kept me trapped in a mediocre life. I knew it wouldn't be easy, and it really wasn't. There were nights I cried with fear, questioning if I was doing the right thing. Money started to get tight, and uncertainty made me anxious. But I had already gone through the worst phase of my life, surviving a relationship that drained me every day. Now it was different. The pain was there, but along with it came an immense desire to succeed. I started studying everything I could about entrepreneurship. I read books, watched videos, and took free online courses. I fell in love with the world of investing and decided it was time to take control of my financial life, something Samuel always said I was incapable of doing. With great effort, I began to save a small amount of capital and decided to open my first digital business. It was simple, selling products I made myself, but each small sale was a huge victory. I found myself immersed in a world that previously seemed impossible. I learned to negotiate, manage my social media, create strategies, and most importantly, to trust my abilities. And it didn't take long for the business to begin to grow. In the first year, I was already making profits I never imagined would reach. It was at that moment that I understood the power we have when we decide to invest in ourselves. As the business grew, I didn't stop there. I reinvested every penny I could in myself. More courses, more knowledge, more personal development. I started attending in-person events, met other women who were also on their own paths of overcoming challenges, and finally felt like I belonged to something bigger. It wasn't just about money, it was about rebuilding my self-esteem and my independence. Each goal I achieved showed me that I was much more than what Samuel had tried to convince me to believe for so many years. Changes were happening inside and outside of me. I, who had previously hidden in baggy clothes and felt invisible, began to take care of my body, my well-being, and my appearance again. Not out of vanity, but because I finally saw myself with affection. People began to notice the difference, and little by little, I became a reference in my field, receiving invitations to speak, to help other women find their strength. My small business turned into $1 million enterprise, but the money was only a reflection of my true victory. I had reclaimed my identity. The most surprising thing was realizing how my change affected everything around me. Those people who once looked at me with pity now saw me with admiration. I looked in the mirror and saw a completely different woman from the one who, months ago, cried on the kitchen floor, feeling like her life was over. It wasn't easy. I had setbacks, moments when insecurity tried to pull me back, but each small victory reminded me that I was on the right path. It wasn't just about leaving Samuel behind, but about leaving behind a version of myself that accepted less than I deserved. Today, I look back and see that the day I discovered the betrayal was actually the starting point for my transformation. I learned to set boundaries, to not settle for scraps, to prioritize myself. Whenever someone asks me if I would go back in time to avoid all of this, I say no, because that pain was the fuel I needed to climb out of the pit and build the best version of myself. And now, when I look to the future, I can only see possibilities, freedom, and fulfillment. My relationship with money also changed completely. Before, I was incredibly afraid of taking risks and investing, because I thought security came from having someone by my side. After everything I went through, I realized that true security came from me, from my financial and emotional independence. I studied investing, hired a business mentor, and opened my first company, focused on helping women develop self-esteem and autonomy. That's when I found not only prosperity, but also a real purpose, something that made me wake up happy every day. Over time, my business expanded in ways I never imagined. I started with small appointments and online courses, and in less than 3 years, I was leading an incredible team with clients from all over the country. I earned my first million with honesty, dedication, and focus, and that was an indescribable feeling. It wasn't just about the money, it was about proving to myself that I was capable of creating an extraordinary life on my own. I started traveling to places I'd always dreamed of, experiencing new cultures, and experiencing experiences that previously seemed impossible. The most rewarding thing was realizing how much I had changed inside. Before, I was a woman who accepted emotional crumbs, who diminished herself to fit into someone else's life. After all this, I became a woman aware of my worth, who wisely chose who I allowed into my life. The wounds healed, and today they remind me of how strong I was to not give up. Loneliness stopped being a punishment and became a gift, a space where I reconnected with myself. Samuel, over time, became just a name from the past, without any power over me. I no longer felt anger, nor a desire for revenge, only a silent gratitude for having escaped that situation before it was too late. I never again accepted anything less than I deserved. And most importantly, I never again had to beg for affection or respect. I built true friendships, found sincere partnerships, and most importantly, rediscovered the incredible woman I had always been, but who had been lost amidst so much neglect. Looking back today, I realize how much it took to go through all that to awaken the strong, resilient woman I've always known. Pain taught me to set boundaries, prioritize myself, and recognize the small emotional pitfalls I'd previously ignored. It wasn't an easy or quick process, but it was genuine. And it's this genuine transformation that I carry with me every day, a reminder that I am much greater than any difficult situation I face. My greatest victory wasn't financial success, nor even emotional freedom. It was peace. The peace of waking up every day, knowing I'm living a life I've built with my own choices, no longer needing to look back with regret or resentment. I've become a woman who inspires other women, who shares her story precisely so no one has to go through what I went through without support or without seeing a way out. And that's why I'm here today, sharing all of this. Over time, I also learned to forgive, not because Samuel deserved my forgiveness, but because I deserved to be free from that burden. Holding a grudge only made me relive the same pain, while forgiveness allowed me to move forward with a lighter heart. It doesn't mean forgetting or justifying what happened, but accepting that some people are only part of our past to teach us valuable lessons. And honestly, understanding this was liberating. Social media, which once seemed like a platform for exposure and judgment, became a tool for connection. I began sharing snippets of my journey, unmasked, showing not only the victories but also the moments when I faltered, cried, and questioned myself. And it was incredible to realize how many people could relate, how many women needed to hear that it was possible to start over, even after a painful fall. This unexpected support gave me even more motivation to keep going. I started creating content about self-confidence, new beginnings, and emotional independence. I saw my small community grow, with women commenting on how my story inspired them to leave abusive relationships and take care of themselves. Each message I received was confirmation that my pain had not been in vain, that transforming it all into strength was not only possible, but necessary. Financially, the growth was also surprising. The business I started as an outlet became my main source of income. I started speaking, being invited to events, and before I knew it, I had achieved a level of financial freedom I never imagined during my years with Samuel. It wasn't just about the money, but the pride I felt in having built everything on my own, from scratch. Today, I look back with a mixed feeling of gratitude and maturity. Gratitude because that pain awakened me, made me open my eyes to who I was and who I wanted to be. Maturity because I learned that no one has the right to diminish us, to make us feel less than we truly are. Every tear, every sleepless night, every doubt served as fuel for my transformation. It wasn't a quick process, but it was genuine and transformed me completely. And that's why I'm sharing my story here today. If you're going through a difficult time, feeling lost after a disappointment, or thinking there's no way out, I want to tell you, there is. Pain doesn't define who you are. You are stronger than you think and deserve to be happy, at peace, and fulfilled. My life began again when I chose myself, and yours can begin again too. Never underestimate the power of starting over from scratch. You don't just survive, you flourish.